Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with the practice questions for the day, a quick gentle reminder. Byjus Exam Prep IAS has launched its mega scholarship program. You would be able to avail as much as 60% discount on our live online classroom program as well as the offline classroom program. Do note, we have very limited number of seats and this offer is valid only till 12th of June. So what are you waiting for? Click the link on the pinned comment, register now to get a call back from our counselors. Let's get started and look into the first practice question. Consider the following statement with respect to governor. With regard to money bills, he may give his assent to the bill, he may withhold his assent, and he may return the bill for reconsideration of the House. He cannot pardon a death sentence. He can nominate one member to the state legislature assembly from the Anglo-Indian community. How many of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is only one. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the governor, which is why we have taken this practice question. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, with regard to money bills, he may give his assent to the bill. Yes, this part is right. He may withhold his assent to the bill. The bill then ends and does not become an act. This part is right. And he returns the bill to the consideration of the House. This part of the statement is wrong. Why? That is because when it comes to the governor cannot return a money bill for the reconsideration of the state legislature. Normally, it is the governor who gives his assent to the money bill as it is introduced in the state legislature with the previous permission of the governor. So the first two parts are right, but the third part of the first statement is wrong. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, he cannot pardon a death sentence. Yes, this statement is right. When it comes to the pardoning power, this is given to the president. So it is the president who would be able to pardon the death sentence, and this power is not given to the governor. The second statement is right. The third statement was right earlier, but then we had a constitutional amendment. This constitutional amendment removed this power both for the president as well as for the governor. So the third statement was right earlier, but there was an amendment that was made. Which amendment was introduced by the government of India is what you have to put on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to State Election Commission, which of the following statements are correct? It consists of a State Election Commissioner to be appointed by the governor. He shall not be removed from the office except in the manner and on the grounds prescribed for the removal of a judge of the State High Court. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to State Election Commission, which is why we have taken this practice question. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, it consists of a State Election Commissioner to be appointed by the governor. Yes, this statement is right. So when it comes to the superintendence, direction, control of the preparation of the electoral rolls and the conduct of the elections when it comes to the panchayats, this power shall be vested in the State Election Commission. So all the powers that are required for conducting the elections at the panchayat level under the municipality level will be taken up by the State Election Commission, and the State Election Commission will have a State Election Commissioner who will be appointed by the governor. It is the governor who will make the appointment. So the first statement is right, and the second statement reads, he shall not be removed from the office except in the manner and on the grounds prescribed for the removal of a judge of a state high court. Yes, this statement is also right. This basically means his conditions cannot be changed. His conditions cannot be changed according to the whims and fancies of the executive. It cannot be with respect to the vagaries of the executive, because he would not be able to discharge his function in a peaceful manner. And as a result, this statement is also right, basically to ensure that he does not have any disadvantage after his appointment. So the first statement is right, the second statement is right. So the answer to this would be both 1 and 2. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. El Nino typically favors stronger hurricane activity in the central and eastern Pacific basins and suppresses it in the Atlantic basin. El Nino and La Nina affect both the ocean and the atmosphere. La Nina refers to a band of warmer water spreading from west to east in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. How many of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is only 2. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to El Nino, which is why we have taken this practice question. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, yes, El Nino typically favors stronger hurricane activity in the central and eastern Pacific basin and suppresses it in the Atlantic basin. This statement is right. So when it comes to the El Nino, it usually favors hurricane activity in the central and eastern Pacific basin, suppresses in the Atlantic basin, and conversely, when we speak about La Nina, it suppresses the hurricane activity in the central and the eastern Pacific basins, but then it enhances in the Atlantic basin. So the first statement is right. When you consider the second statement, El Nino and La Nina affect both the ocean and the atmosphere. Yes, this statement is also right. When it comes to El Nino and La Nina, they primarily cause a lot of changes in that particular area. They also bring changes in the vertical wind shear as well, and this refers to change in the wind speed direction in that particular area. So the strong vertical wind shear can also rip a developing hurricane. So what we have is this affecting both the ocean as well as the atmosphere. So the first statement is right, the second statement is right, but when it comes to the third statement is wrong primarily because this definition speaks about El Nino and not La Nina. When it comes to El Nino, what happens? What we have is the cold water along South American coast, and what we also have is the warm water in the eastern side of Australia. So since there is cold water here, there is high pressure. Since there is warm water here, there is low pressure, and as we all know, through the pressure difference, it starts moving from the high pressure to the low pressure region. This is the normal here, but when it comes to El Nino, what happens? This particular area along the Peru becomes far more warmer as well. And when it warms, this particular region becomes high pressure, this region becomes low pressure. And what we have is the movement of this particular oceanic surface from west to the east. So the west to the east movement is what we call as El Nino, and it is not La Nina. So the third statement is wrong. Now let's look into the next practice question. Minimum support price is given to which of the following crops? Paddy, groundnut, raw jute, sunflower seed, ragi. The answer to this is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to MSP hike. What is this MSP? MSPs are the support prices announced by the central government. Sometimes state governments add a bonus amount as well, and the intention is to provide a safety net to the farmers. So this basically means that they would be given a guaranteed price despite the fall in the farm prices in the market. The minimum support prices are usually announced by the Government of India at the beginning of the sowing season for certain crops on the basis of a recommendation, and this recommendation is given by the Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices. So it is this committee which makes a recommendation, and ultimately it is accepted by the Government of India to protect the producers, farmers, excessive fall in the price during the bumper production periods. And how is it based on? It is based on the cost of production, changes in input prices, input output price parity, demand and supply, effect on cost of living, effect on general price levels. All these would be considered, and ultimately what we will have is the Government of India prescribing the minimum support price. So as of now, this minimum support price is given to all these crops. So let's say for example we have paddy, wheat, barley, jowar, bajra, maize and ragi, or let's take for example pulses like the gram, moong dal, urd dal, lentil, so on and so forth. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section for how many crops are these minimum support prices given is what you have to put on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. What is the difference between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi devices? Bluetooth uses 2.4 GHz radio frequency band, whereas Wi-Fi can use 2.4 GHz or 5 GHz frequency band. Bluetooth is used for wireless local area networks only, whereas Wi-Fi is used for wireless wide area networks. When information is transmitted between two devices using Bluetooth technology, the devices have to be in line in sight of each other, but when Wi-Fi technology is used, the devices need not be in line of sight of each other. The statements A and B given above are correct in this context. Which of the statements are correct? What is the difference between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi? The answer to this is Bluetooth uses 2.4 GHz radio frequency band, whereas Wi-Fi uses 2.4 GHz or 5 GHz frequency band. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2011. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is sexual intent in POCSO. What is the context? The Kerala High Court this week quashed a case filed under the POCSO Act, India's child protection law, against a woman accused of subjecting her children to an obscene act. What exactly happened? In June 2020, a women's rights activist posted a video on social media that showed her children aged 14 and 18 years painting on a semi-nude torso with the hashtag body art and politics. So the minute this particular issue occurred, you had the police officers impose her with certain sections of the POCSO. Which are these sections? One is to do with section 9 of N. What is section 9 of N of the POCSO Act? Whoever being a relative of the child through blood or adoption or marriage or guardianship or in foster care, or having domestic relationship with the parent of the child, or who is living in the same or straight household with the child, commits sexual assault on the child. So this particular section was imposed on this person, and as a result the Kerala High Court interpreted that this cannot be imposed on the person because there was no sexual intent from that female with respect to the children. So this section was completely taken off. Then she was further imposed with section 14, read with section 13 of B and section 15 of the Protection of the Children from Sexual Offences Act. What is it about? This is with respect to pornography. So whoever uses a child in any form of media, telecast by television channels or internet or any other electronic form or printed form, whether or not such program or advertisement is intended for personal use, and there is a representation of sexual organ of a child, usage of a child engaged in real or simulated sexual acts, indecent or obscene representation of a child, shall be guilty of the offense of pornographic purposes. So in this particular case, the Kerala High Court went on to say that the children who were present in that video were completely clothed, there was no sexual intent whatsoever, and ultimately these sections were also taken off as well. The primary issue that the court looked into picture is with respect to nudity and obscenity. Nudity is taken in a general balance and does not have negative tinge attached to it, but when it comes to obscenity, it has a negative tinge attached to it, and at the same time it also has a larger repercussions to the society as well. So when it comes to obscenity, it is extremely offensive under contemporary community standards of morality and decency, grossly repugnant to the generally accepted notions which are inappropriate. So only when there is an issue where it is gauged by the sensibilities of the people, tolerance levels of an average responsible person, only then this can be considered as obscene, and rest of the things are nudity, is what the Kerala High Court said. So basically, when it comes to this particular case, what the Kerala High Court was able to showcase is that there is difference between nudity and obscenity, and there was no sexual intent from the person to the children, is what is this article all about. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.